It's no secret that one of my favorite Fujifilm lenses I've ever shot with is the XF 90mm F2. I've taken some beautiful shots with it. I raved about it. Last year, I sold it because I didn't use it enough. And over the past few months, shooting with a lot of wider focal lengths like the Iamtongue 27mm F1.2 Pro, the XF 23mm F1.4 WRLM, and I will add in the XF 33mm F1.4 as well. I realized that I needed another lens with a bit more compression than what I currently have in my kit. Again, the longest Fujifilm prime lens that I have is the XF 33mm F1.4. And every time I would come home from a shoot, my shots started to look and feel the same, and this is because I've shot with the 33mm F1.4 so much. Matter of fact, I've shot with many different lenses with that same focal length, right? So the photos started to look repetitive to me. So you see where I'm coming from, right? So again, I just wanted something to complement the wider focal length that I was shooting with. Something that can get in tight and focus on the expression, get the detail shots, and as well compresses the background. I had a choice to pick up the 90mm F2 lens again or choose the 56mm instead. And as you can already tell by the title, I decided to pick up the new 56mm F1.2 WR. And look at this. Oh my god, just look at this. Look at that sexy beast, y'all. Look at that. Oh my god, look at that girthy fella. So if you're wondering why, I'm going to share with you guys a few reasons right now. Number one, it has a f1.2. The XF 90mm widest aperture is only at f2. And in low light situations, you would like to have the widest aperture for that light gathering ability. This was one of the reasons why I decided to go with the 56. The faster the lens, the lower the ISO I can use, the less noise that I will have in my images. Number two, its wider focal length proves to be a bit more versatile for me. Don't get me wrong, I love the 90mm. But one of the things you can't do with that lens, unless you have a big ass space, is to use it indoors. And this got me thinking in a practical sense as well. As much as I love the 90 and how the image quality looks, I had to ask myself, realistically, how much am I going to use the 90mm if I were to pick it up versus how much I would use the 56mm if I picked that one up. And I just thought logically I would use the 56mm more because it just makes sense. It's wider, so it makes it easier to work in a limited space over the 90mm f2 because you need space to make the 90mm shine. And when it shines, it absolutely shines so much. But because I was thinking with my brain and not my heart, this is one of the reasons why I picked up the 56mm f1.2. Number three, and it's the final reason, I like the image quality coming out of this lens. Not to say that I like the 56 image quality more than I like the 90. I think they produce some great looking image. But when I was using the 56 a few months ago back in Toronto, I had a lot of fun shooting with this lens. The images that I got came out looking sharp and clean. And I was just taken aback from the images I got since I don't often use the 56mm focal length. The portraits I got looked pleasing. The bokeh rendering was just so nice and so smooth. So there was just a lot more going for it. The last time I used the 56mm f1.2 lens was legit a few years ago, like in 2019 or 2020. And that was with the old 56mm lens. I don't use this focal length often, right? So when I was using it at the studio, I was just having a lot of fun. So I just want to give this focal length another chance. I used the 56mm f1.2 outside. I've used it to shoot at nighttime, and I shot with it in a studio environment. And I just love the images that it produced, whatever the use case I was throwing at it. But what are some reasons why you should choose the 90mm f2 over the new 56? This could come in handy for people looking for that reach, like landscape photographers, because sometimes a 56mm focal length isn't enough to get you what you need. And since it has a longer reach, it enhances the background compression much more than the 56mm. And this can cause a much more pleasing subject isolation from the subject and the background. And the image quality, the 90mm f2 has a magical quality to its image. Every time I shot with it, it's just absolutely stunning. Like, it's so beautiful. And there's a feel to it every time I take a shot. I haven't felt that with any other lens. So this lens has some sort of like special magic in it that I find to just make the images look and feel just a bit special. And it's slightly cheaper than the new 56mm f1.2 WR by $50. But you can definitely pick one up on the used market for a lot less. So it makes the 90mm much more of a bargain and a steal to go for, again, the 90 over the new 56. Oh, and I forgot, it also has linear motor autofocus inside, whereas the 56mm F1.2 WR does not. And you do feel this in its autofocusing, so it's not as quick as the 90, just keep that in mind. So if you prefer the longer reach, great image quality with linear motors autofocusing inside, get the 90mm F2. My thoughts on it has not changed. It still takes amazing photos, and I'm just in love with its image quality. And only get this lens if you know for sure that you have the room and the space to operate, because it's probably not ideal to set this lens up as a studio lens because it's super tight. And get the 56mm F1.2 if you want a better low light performer with a bit more versatility when it comes to limited spacing. Just know that the autofocusing performance isn't as good as the 90. But saying that, I did have fun shooting with this lens. I love the images. I can't wait to use it some more. And again, shooting with the new 56mm F1.2 in a few settings like nighttime, outside, and inside a studio setting, I just figured that overall I could get more use out of this lens than I would than the 90mm F2. And that's why I chose the 56mm F1.2 WR over the XF 90mm F2. And I think the 56mm F1.2 will be a good addition in my kit. It's much needed just to switch things up. But again, my reasons could be different from yours, and you may feel you want the 90mm over the 56, and that's fine too. Do whatever you want. But what are your thoughts? Would you choose the 56mm or the 90mm? Let me know down in the comments below. And if you're interested in these lenses, I'll leave the links down in the description. And if you find this video helpful, consider subscribing to my channel where you get Fuji videos like this. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you.